Awesome. Hello, 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 and welcome to Connectivity, the podcast that features discussions not only about music, but also about Reiki, spirituality, and social, um, and brings social awareness to different social topics. My name is Nicholas. I am the director of Music and Soul, and I just wanted to take this moment to respectfully acknowledge that this podcast stands and profits on the unsurrendered and unceded lands of the Wolastoqey, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy people. The lands of the Wolastoqey and the Mi'kmaq and the Passamaquoddy people are recognized in a series of peace and friendship treaties to establish an ongoing relationship of peace, friendship, and mutual respect between nations, equal nations. With this intention, Music and Soul strives to continue to honor this relationship by respecting elders of the past and present and their descendants. Music and Soul acknowledges past and current societal deficits that are continuing to impact Indigenous communities at large today. Music and Soul seeks the guidance of knowledge keepers to enhance closer, creative, supportive relationships with Indigenous peoples across New Brunswick. And finally, Music and Soul strives to promote and celebrate Indigenous-led initiatives. And today with me, I have the amazing, wonderful Elder Steve WinterHawk from Ontario. Steve, what would be the traditional lands in Ontario?
Pardon
Would-
me?
What would be the traditional lands in Ontario?
Well, the traditional lands it used to be all over Toronto and the whole area of Ojibwe, but now the traditional lands that we're on is the New Credit, Mississauga, the New Credit, and the Six Nations pretty well. And
Yeah.
that's the two reserves that I'm from, the New Credit Reserve.
Okay. Okay. Um, and were you born there?
Yes, I was actually born, believe it or not, on the New Credit Reserve, and it was pretty interesting.
Okay. Um, what makes it interesting?
Well, for me, it was really interesting to see, and that goes back. I'm not going to give away my full age, but that goes back over 70 years. And
Wow.
70 years ago, I was born from a. I should introduce myself properly. I say, Bonjour, Steven WinterHawk Indishnakas, and I say Red Wing Indishnakas. That's one of my other names. Indishnakas means my name is. So
Condition
anyway, when
cause.
I was born of a Christian white mother and a Ojibwe father. So there was kind of
Hmm.
an interesting mix. So when I was born, all through my growing up in Canada and wherever I was, I sort of felt out of place, at least in the
Hmm.
beginning, because here am I got my mother's skin and my dad's blood, but
Hmm.
I'm a fair-skinned child in the middle of a whole lot of dark-skinned relatives, which they were beautiful people. But at
Hmm.
that time, 70 years ago, the people on my reserve and the Six Nations in that area, they were sort of holding back, connecting with the world as much because they were still going through the residential school problem, having the
Yeah.
children stolen and everything. So for me, it was really strange, and I felt out of place because here am I felt when I was a child, and my mother was bringing me up in
Hmm.
a Christian way then before I found my native blood. Well, I
Okay.
felt, well, what the heck am I doing here?
Hmm.
That kind of thing. And I did. They were okay, the people, but when we moved off the reserve and we went to school, I got a lot of hazing
Mm,
from people. I went to the when I finally went to the Hagersville High School, and that's not even there anymore. What that is a group of townhouses. If you go back that, because that's like 60 or 70 years ago. But
mm,
anyway, here am I, a native kid. They knew I was native because my last name, by the way, is Laforme. And almost everybody on my reserve is called Laforme. Well, at least half of them.
yeah.
But so I got a lot of the people would sort of not actually physically bully me, but like to stand in front of me and block my way and all that kind of thing to you just to see what I would do. But I was really a introverted child and a
Mm,
pacifist. And I read today, interesting enough, on the internet about the power of silence, and the power of silence is to not be goaded into responding to someone's thing, whatever their story is. So I went
yeah.
through a lot of that, and then when I went to the public school, which was strange. I was a native kid. I thought I was native, or I didn't know what I was. But my teacher, who was in the public school, said to me right off, she said to me, I know who you are. I taught your relatives and your cousins on the reserve.
Mm,
So anyway, that was my sort of thing. And so a lot of times I felt out of place, or I felt I thought of things, and even though I didn't know it, I thought of things differently than the regular people. Because in the public school, then we were taught the Bible, and we were taught prayers and all this kind of stuff that they don't
yeah.
teach now.
Well, it's interesting how that was imposed even in public school, because in today's standards, public school, usually there isn't that emphasis on religion, um, from what I understand.
For sure.
But when you went, there was that emphasis of religion and prayer.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, did you ever, and you don't need to, if this is too loaded, but did you ever experience the residential school system? Or did you like directly, or was it primarily like vicariously through family and your community?
Well, you mean a residential school system? That's what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Well, myself, I think because this could have been because I was a white looking kid or something.
Okay.
Maybe I was old, but a lot of my relatives and my aunts and uncles, they had, some of them were taken, and
Okay.
they passed down to me and my relatives a fear of being, if anything happened to you, don't report it because you might be drawing attention to yourself. So this was always in the background.
Yeah. This fear of you can't trust the law enforcement, or you can't
Yeah,
trust the
literally
system
somebody
in
might
which you
come
live
along,
in.
and it was happening even in the 60s. They called it the 60 scoop,
Yeah.
where somebody would just come in and take an Aboriginal baby from a mother. So there was a lot of that. And, residential schools didn't really close, a lot of them finally till the 80s.
From what I've read, the last residential school was within a year of my birth that it closed. So that was 96 that the last residential school in Canada closed. So it's still like I think people like to think that, oh, that was in the past, and oh, 60 scoop is in the past, but no, the consequences of those actions are still very much at play. Even in our own foster care system in Canada, some do argue that it's the continuation of residential schools in modern day, because unfortunately there's a lot of children being displaced from Indigenous families and given to white families still to this day, or to um, foster care, which
Well,
is quite
that's
devastating.
true.
You know, it's so for you in your experience, um, you're saying that because of your skin color, even that may have prevented um you from
Well, I
being.
was, because of my skin color from my mother,
Mhm.
until I didn't know who I was really
Mm,
until I was about 15 or 16, and then suddenly this native blood started to kick in, and I think I started looking for other
mm,
things. That's see, to me, all that is like, I read a lot about a guy called Joseph Campbell, and one of the things he said
mhm.
was, he'd take his students aside before class and say, you need to find your bliss, whatever your bliss
Yes.
is, and live it.
Mm,
So I think is for me it was advantage to be different, because that
yeah.
ended up me being introvert and dreaming a lot, living in dreams instead of living in this world. And
Yeah.
that ended up with me writing 6 books on
Yeah.
reconciliation. I
Yes.
didn't realize that what they were at the time. They came from my dreams,
Yeah.
but that's what eventually that's what they were.
Yeah. I was going to ask you a little bit about that because you are an author um, of 6 books. I actually have 7 of your books because I have one of your um, The Arrows of Truth.
Yeah, but my poetry book. I've just published that, but probably have about 1,000 poems on my Facebook page.
Yeah. Now, I've read some of your poems. They're always very evocative and thought-provoking. Always. Something that I appreciate about your work is the emphasis of reconciliation in that I'm curious, it's not just reconciliation in the systemic view, but it's also possibly reconciliation with self. You were saying how growing up, and you could, of course, I'm maybe making an assumption, but growing up, you were saying how displaced you had felt. Um, it's interesting when you say, like, at 16, my native blood kicked in. I'm curious what caused that. Um, I
Well,
know I'm asking you
it,
2 different questions. I'm sorry.
well, see, that's the sort of gift of sort of like either your relatives or people around you uh assuming different things about you or treating you in a different way, and me feeling different. Suddenly
Mm,
you start looking like, then what am I about? Like, what is my reason for being here?
yeah.
And I guess some people rebel and they just go against the system and everything. But I guess mine, because I had guidance in my dreams, I really did. I
Mm,
had guidance in my dreams, so that guidance had me looking to find out who I was really and what that place was.
mm. That's beautiful. Um, no, that's beautiful. And look where your dreams got you. They got you 6 books. Did you want to speak to any of your books right now? Were there any books that, um,
Well, it's interesting because they sort of, I didn't it really it wasn't my intention, I don't think, of doing the reconciliation thing or whatever. But
yeah,
I really, when I come down to it, I was living it, because
yeah,
my books all came from my dreams. So
mm,
my first set of books was my first 2 books were about, what if, because this came from my mother's Christian beliefs. I
mm,
thought, this can't be all wrong, but then I don't feel like it was all right,
yeah,
that kind of thing. So I had to experience, what if Jesus was born as a Native American? So I
mm,
went through that in my dreams, and then I had some really interesting dreams while I was doing those books. Right down to I call my poetry arrows of truth.
Arrows of truth.
Arrows of truth. And the reason
Hmm.
I do is because in the middle of doing these first two books, one was called Mary and Joseph, which is interesting because in that Mary was we don't have princesses, native people, but she was a native kind of princess.
Hmm.
And Joseph, who she married, was a Portuguese man. So
Yeah.
between them, they had a baby called Shiloh. Well, that went
Yeah.
through and Shiloh was the person that was born with Jesus's memories. But
Yeah.
while I was writing that, in sort of before and after, I had a really interesting dream that I write in the book.
Mm.
I'm on a hill above Custer's Last Stand, if you know what Custer was. Cus
Do you mind just reminding me?
Well,
Cus
Custer was a guy that came into the native people, and he led his troops. He was killing everybody,
Okay.
whatever. So eventually, he came into a valley where our people were having like a meeting, a powwow, that kind of thing. But he
Hmm.
underestimated the thing because he thought he was so powerful and everything. But
Mm.
there was too many natives there, and he didn't know that. But this battle is going on below me, and I'm up on a hill in my dream. I'm
Yeah.
up on a hill, and I'm sitting there across the fire from an old native man. I guess you call him medicine man.
Mm.
And he said, "Here's what I want you to do." And he handed me an arrow across the fire. And he says, "I want you to take this arrow of truth and go down there and put it in the heart to honor
Mm.
that man for bringing change." And I thought, even in a
Wow.
dream, yeah, even in a dream, I thought,
Wow.
no way. Like
Yeah.
I'm a warrior or whatever. I just want to take one of his guns and go down there and shoot him.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
in the dream, I went down there and I got close enough, and the old guy that had to give me the arrow, he was there and he was dying on the ground. And I looked up and I thought, and I actually took the arrow and put it into Custer. And afterwards, after that dream and various times, this arrow of truth came up. And I
Mm.
realized this arrow of truth is about all people's beliefs in religion. We're all giving this arrow of truth, but this arrow of truth is not the truth. What it
Yeah.
is, it's an arrow that says you're driving down the road or something and you come to construction, shall we say. And
As
the
they're
arrow
banging.
says, go that way, whatever. So the arrow of
Yeah.
truth is that religions have came to me is we're all given a chance to follow that arrow to love,
Mm.
to the real truth, which is love your neighbor and love everybody. In other words, arrow truth leads you to some people might call God.
Yeah.
That was sort of my driving force in
Mm.
the beginning.
That's beautiful. That's very beautiful too. Um, and it shows how meaningful dreaming is for you. But I believe that everyone has a gift. Everyone has a spiritual connection of some sort. And often when I'm chatting with others, I'll intuit, oh, you're a dreamer. You get your info through your dreams. You got to listen to your dreams more. But it sounds like that was just a very intuitive process for you. Um, and also that sometimes our gifts, I find, will get activated in those times of discomfort in life. Um, when we are trying to figure out who we are. And it sounds like that's what happened for you. You started to dream, and it really guided you.
Oh, for sure. And then later on in my life, after I got so into the regular colonial way of living, like go out and get a job and get a
Yeah.
whatever. I got in the middle of a relationship, a marriage that lasted 20 some years. And
Okay.
it was really difficult.
Mm.
And anyway, I had disconnected from my dreams until one day I was meditating, looking for answers. And I went to sleep and I woke up and I heard someone's voice, and it was a woman's voice.
Mm.
And I knew that was my soulmate.
Aw.
And I looked back, and then I started dreaming again. And I started dreaming about being, and that was where the other books came in. The other books came along from dreaming about her and remembering when I was a child, I really wasn't alone. I had her
Mm.
with me. So it's a long, sad, not a sad, but a good story of
Yeah.
me, like following your first, because the person that I had married, I had thought was my soulmate. Maybe she was too. Who
Hmm.
knows what soulmate is? A soulmate brings out the best in you.
Soul
So I had a
friend.
choice then
Mhm.
to carry on a difficult relationship and fight her, or learn to love her for the way she was.
Mm.
So that was my choice. Anyway, so that brought the dreams back. And at that time, I was inspired to make a native pipe and start smoking my pipe and that
Yeah.
kind of thing, and reconnecting with. That's where it really connected me to the native blood and everything.
Yeah.
And of course, building a drum, making a drum.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I was gonna ask you the next question, which was if you could speak to your relationship with music and if there were any songs that you wanted to share today. Um, so when you say you made your drum, what was that like?
Well, so what first music was always really important to me.
Yeah.
Since I was 15 or 16, I had
Mm.
all I had a guitar and I was piddling away at
Okay.
the guitar and everything. But when it wasn't until I made a drum that I realized that this connects you to your heart,
Yeah.
and it can, when you do that, then the songs I was interested in took an altogether different meaning, and I like
Mm.
songs now, like the Cherokee Morning Song, which says, I am from the Great Spirit,
Mm.
it is so. That's what Wende Aho means.
Yes.
And the song, other ones we do at the Four Colors Drum Circle
Hmm.
are like, Oh Great Spirit song. Oh Great Spirit, earth, sun, sky, and sea, you are inside and all around me. So our prayers,
Mm.
those are the songs that I really like to do.
Yeah. And I must say, having attended the Four Colors Drumming Circle, um, Steve is a leader at the Four Colors Drumming Circle with the community. Um, and we'll speak a little bit more to that later. But having attended myself, I must say that for me, joining your circle was life saving. It really was. It helped me find a deeper aspect of myself. And when I made my drum, um, again, I felt very blessed and honored to have made it. And I think I don't know, Steve, do you know the way that I came to your circle? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just such a synchronous thing, similar to what you've been saying. Like you, the moment you take a moment to just pause and pray or say a little something, meditate with the universe, I find that the answers come in really big when you have that authentic need. And for me, at the time, I definitely had an authentic need for community. And I prayed at one of the trees, Grandma Willow, I call her. And of course, someone from the medicine wheel community, the drumming community, came. and said, "You need to come and join us." And it was that easy. I didn't have to seek you out at all. And I think that's what's wonderful because that's, I think, what drumming really fosters. It connects you, it connects you to your heart, but it connects you to I find the heart within the heart, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Um, so drumming from,
The scientist Greg Braden, he did a whole book series on that the heart has a memory.
mm,
And that's true. When you connect to the heart, you connect to a different memory. And
yeah,
when you sound your drum, it's us sounding our heart. And pretty
mhm,
soon we all get together sounding our heart.
exactly.
It's a beautiful thing.
Physics calls it entrainment, you know.
Yeah.
Science is calling it entrainment too. Um, Being a music therapist, I know the power of rhythm on a scientific level. Like, I know that I can manipulate your heart rate using my drum. I know that
Yeah.
manipulate your breath
Yep.
rate. Not that I'm going to, just for kicks, but that is the power of drumming. There's not only a spiritual benefit to it, there's also even a neurologic benefit to it as well. Um,
Yeah, I have my drum right here. I'll show the screen here. Well,
okay, thank you.
so there it is. And being the sort of rebel you could say that I am,
Yeah.
well, right away I did some things that now I tell people when I get people to make a drum and that kind of thing, we
Mhm.
tell them some of the stuff that, oh, don't paint your drum because it'll freeze you in that kind of a position. And when you painted your drum, that's
Yeah.
one of the things. But
Yeah.
then I'm such a rebel to begin with. I did that because I painted my totem on my drum. I
Yes.
did the hawk and the wolf, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. So that was where I wanted to be anyway. So
Hmm. That's beautiful. Did you feel like sharing a song? Did you feel
for
like
sure.
sharing anything like that? It would be
You
an
want
honor to hear you.
you want to do a song?
Sure.
For sure. Like uh the interesting thing that when we share, it's not like I said, we have a saying, a
Mm.
Ojibwe that I like is there is no right way, there is no wrong way, there's a Ojibwe,
There's a new way.
which means
Yes.
all those hard fast rules that we like, not painting your drum, all
Mhm.
those hard fast rules are meant for you to do personally and see
Yeah.
if they suit you. So
Yeah.
I'm saying that about our song. When we do a song, we usually do a song four times,
Times. Yeah.
because four times means we honor all four directions.
Yeah.
So when we do a song about the moon, she has 13, believe it or not, she has 13 seasons,
Yeah.
and
She
we do
does.
13 times.
Mm.
Or something about the seven grandfathers teaching, we'll do seven times. But
Okay.
this song I'd
Thank you.
if you want to join me or whatever.
Sure. I don't have my drum, so I'll just beat on my chest.
Oh, that's what we do too. So I like the Cherokee morning song, which is Wende Aho. The words mean I am of the Great Spirit, like Yahweh. Yeah, Wende
Yahweh.
Yah.
One
Aho. It
day.
is
Yeah.
so.
It is so
So
awesome. Mm.
Wende Aho.
Yahoo,
Wende
Wendy
Aho.
Yahoo,
Wende
Wendy
Yah.
Yah,
Wende
Wendy
Yah.
Yah,
Oh,
ho
ho,
ho
ho, ho,
ho
ho,
ho, hey
hey,
ya,
oh, hey,
hey ya
oh,
ho,
yeah, yeah,
ya
yeah,
ya ya.
yeah.
Wendy
When they are home,
Yahoo,
when they
Wendy
are home,
Yahoo. Wendy,
oh,
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 hey,
hey,
oh,
oh,
hey,
hey,
oh,
oh,
yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah. When they
Wendy,
are,
oh,
when they
Wendy,
are, oh,
oh,
when they
Wendy,
are, when they
Wendy,
are,
oh,
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 hey,
hey,
oh,
oh,
hey,
hey,
oh,
oh,
yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah. One more time.
Mm.
When
When
they
they
are,
are
oh,
whole,
when
when
they
they
are,
are whole,
oh, when
they
they are,
are,
when
when
they
they
are,
are,
oh,
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 hey,
hey,
oh,
oh,
hey,
hey,
oh,
oh,
yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Woo!
So we do, what we do is, well, what we do is in our group is obviously everybody likes to applaud. So a native thing, instead of clapping your hands, our applaud is called the buffalo yell. It goes,
Mm.
whoop.
Woo!
So that means
Yeah.
I'm applauding you and I'm applauding me for having to sing a good song.
Oh, I love it. Thank you,
Chimigwich. Of
Chimiquich. Thank
course,
you so
that
much.
means thank you very much.
Yes, Chimiquich. Thank you. For honoring with us with that song. Yeah, I feel at peace. That song always brings much peace to my heart. Mm.
I had an interesting thing happen because, like I said, I in the beginning before my drum,
Hmm.
I played guitar, self-taught, that kind of thing for years, and then I sort of set it aside after the drum. And I was at a place just this week past to pick up some bookmarks that we have printed. We have these bookmarks. This is what they look like. They
Mm.
advertise our Four Colors Drum Circle. So we have a lot of them printed with email address and everything on, and they advertise my books, advertise the Four Colors Drum Circle. So I was going to pick them up, and I'm coming out of that place, walking to my car, and I look down because I'm always looking down, finding feathers and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And there I think, God, that couldn't be. I reached this thing, and it was a guitar pick. Like, what
Oh.
kind of message is that?
Hmm.
Like we get
Yes.
messages of all sorts of things, especially the message of going on a walk and then finding a feather. But
Mm.
walking across a place where you're doing whatever you're doing and finding a guitar pick, and it looked
Yeah.
really nice. It was good shape and well worn.
Hmm.
So I put it in
Of
my
all the
wallet.
things. Oh, there you go. There you go. Of all the things. Well, maybe now it's time to come back to guitar.
Yeah, maybe I'll get back and piddle. My son has been encouraging me to do that
Oh, nice.
because he plays guitar he has three guitars. They play them all the time. He took
Mm.
he took training in high school and not to play guitar.
Oh, wow.
Like, so he really know how to read the notes and everything. I don't know how. I just grew up listening to the music that inspires us.
Hmm.
With me it was the Moody Blues and people like that.
Mm. Yes. Those
Yeah.
are Rolling Stones? No. Um, Moody Blues. Yeah, those are good artists.
And John Lennon, of course,
Yeah,
Imagine and that kind of thing. The Beatles had a lot of good stuff.
Beatles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my growing up, in my whatever listening, there was a lot of good. And of course, one of the big influences for me was Bob Dylan.
Mm.
He had so much to say. Like there was
Yeah.
people there that went in the folk generation that had so much to say that, wow, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. It's a powerful time that you lived through. You lived
Yeah, for
through
sure.
a great many changes. Um,
Yeah.
speaking to that, I'm curious, just observing Canada and different changes that you've have experienced, what have been certain changes? And are there any other steps that you would suggest in regards to reconciliation, taking
Well,
any
you know,
action
really, the
steps?
really important thing I noticed, like, because I'm tuned in looking for reconciliation and that kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
is our government is promoting it, like but their hard sell of promotion in the beginning, and they're starting to come around, was, oh, reconciliation is like the Pope type of thing. We'll just say we're sorry and give them
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of money and they'll be okay. But
Yeah.
reconciliation is, they're starting to learn, and we are starting to bring it forward as a Native people. Reconciliation is not just me, it's you too. It's
Mm-hmm.
everybody reconciling their arrows of truth, like instead of shooting at them, at people, you know, that kind of using those arrows of truth to find a greater truth. So what's
Yeah.
been happening is we've been encouraged. The Four Colors Drum Circle, by the way, is still going strong after this is our 14th year.
Well,
We look after a medicine wheel garden in Heart Lake, in case I didn't mention it.
okay, so
We've been looking, yeah,
Heart Lake, Brampton,
yeah, in
Ontario.
Brampton. So we've been looking
Nice.
after that medicine wheel garden for going on 14 years and
Mm,
keeping it going. But one of the things that's happening with it also is we're being asked, and I'm being asked to go out to schools and teach Native things and release in schools and big
mm-hmm.
business. Like we get a lot of, because of this truth and reconciliation thing, we get a lot of calls to go to big business and have
Interesting.
them. So what we do is we do songs like Cherokee Morning Song and Oh Great Spirit to tell them. But the thing that came to me during learning, I had to learn to be an Indian. You know,
Mm,
it was in my blood, but I had to learn.
mm-hmm.
I had to go to. I went to the Native Center in Toronto to take Ojibwe lessons, like native, my own language I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, really. And after a while, well, some of the things that came through was we learned there's no way after we're finished here, we don't. There's no goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
So we instead of saying different words, we say gigawabamin minawa. So
Gigawabaman
that
Minowa.
yeah, that word means I'll see you again. I'll see you later. Minawa is the important word. That when I
Minowa.
go to say schools, or even we go to churches, believe it or not, and do native teaching. And the
Mm.
first thing I like to tell them is Gigawaba Minawa. Minawa means I'm not trying to change you, or I'm not trying to change your teaching or make your teaching wrong. Minawa
Wow.
means there is more. So all we're
Mm.
suggesting is if you listen to us and listen to us sing our songs and talk about native things, that you'll find out there is more.
Yeah.
There's everything that you've already learned, which is your truth, and that's good. That's your arrow truth. But there is
Mm.
more, and Minawa means more. So, and that is the way of like when my mother or somebody leaves this world, I
Mm.
say Minawa, and she comes back to me in my dreams. I dream of her, and I dream of all my relatives, and I have the strangest dreams that anybody would ever want to ever want to say. But like I said, Minawa, it's not the end. This is like this is my cocoon. So
Mm.
when I leave this cocoon, if I don't leave too soon, when I leave this, oh, that's almost rhymes. Anyway,
Write it down. That's your next poem.
yeah. Next poem. So when I leave this cocoon, my spirit leaves the cocoon. My spirit doesn't die. And I
Yeah,
wrote a book called The Spark of the Fire,
yeah,
which means uh the meaning of that is,
that's fun.
yeah, there it is. And that was, see, the spark of the fire has a woman on it. And it
Hmm.
was about me finding my soulmate out there and God knows where in the stars. But the
Aw.
spark of the fire is the truth of the native teaching
Hmm.
that we have. When we were created, there was a spark of the Creator's fire put inside us. And a lot of people have a story about like God getting together with these angels and say, "Oh, where are you going to hide this truth or whatever inside? Where are you going? Let's put it on the moon." And one
Hmm.
angel said, "Oh no, they'll go there."
Yeah.
So after a lot of things, one angel says, "Put it inside them." And
Mhm.
then they'll have to look inside and they'll have to start and they'll touch their heart. And pretty soon they'll be caring about other people. But that spark of the fire is there, and that's part of the creator. So
Hmm.
it's always possible for us to ignite that spark and become who we really are. So
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons we do our drumming, and we go to schools and tell people, well, there's more. Everything that you've learned up to now is true, but there's
Hmm.
more. Who knows? God knows. Maybe the Creator knows, but we don't. Anyway, I blab
Yeah.
on and on and on because it
No,
gets to
I
be a real subject that I really love.
no, I think it's beautiful what you're speaking because um in a way, yeah, you've answered the question in that if you want to see reconciliation, if you want to see change, you have to make space for it and you have to make time for it. And what's beautiful is that big corporations, schools, they're doing their part in inviting you to come and speak. Um, Me personally, I think it's very important that a lot of the reconciliation is Indigenous led, because, and yeah, it's a 50-50 street. At the same time, though, sometimes our system comes with this colonial lens and mindset, and it's still in this mindset of power, 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 right? Um, so it's good when there's small pockets of opportunity for an Indigenous lens to be given. And that's really what I wanted to invite you on this podcast to share that lens as well. Um, let's see. We have 15 minutes till we're done. Was there anything else that you wanted to highlight? Maybe like the drumming circle, any other projects, anything upcoming for you?
Well, the interesting thing about these projects that I'm asked to do, because some of the times I'm asked to, and lately I've been asked to. I'm wearing a shirt here. You can't see the thing on it anyway.
Mhm.
It's about the Mississauga of the new credit, Mississauga of the credit. So I'm from there.
Okay.
I'm being asked lately, and actually, the people that represent the new credit reserve surprised me because I met them at the powwow. We had a powwow lately at Fort York in Toronto. It's called a
Hmm.
Nami Res, which is Native Men's Residence. And it was
Okay.
an amazing powwow. But there I met the people that was representing um, my reserve,
Okay.
Mississauga, the new credit. And they're actually recommending me to do different things to represent them. So
Wow.
yeah, it's exactly. So I'm really having to dig into my native whatever, to go out to one place and do prayer, more opening prayer and a closing prayer for some organization of the
Mm.
native people and that kind of thing. So I have to dig into my now how much Ojibwe do I know? Like, or what prayers do I know? So when we do those kind of things, if we put ourselves out, what we're doing is we're learning at the same time. We're stretching our
Mhm.
boundaries of who we really are.
Yeah.
You know, there was a guy I've read tons of books, and I'm always interested in other people's ideas. A guy called Richard Bach, who
Okay.
wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull. In one of his books, he wrote called Illusions. In
Mm.
other words, illusions of a reluctant Messiah. Anyway, he said in that book, what I find really good, is we teach best what we most need to learn. And
Mm.
I'm finding that, like my teaching or my sharing of Ojibwe stories and all kinds of stuff, it's teaching me because I have to learn about my own people, stuff I didn't know unless I put myself out to learn.
Yeah. And I think that's powerful. I think many Indigenous people are in the same boat where they were, a lot of young people I speak to and older speak of that journey of coming back to their Indigenous roots. Some not knowing that they were even Indigenous to begin with, and then learning about it and oh wow, and learning how to identify with it all. And it's a process. But I think you leading the way in that, or not necessarily the way, but you being a model and sharing your own experience, I think it's definitely, you're doing the work. It's beautiful. And I love um, the truth that I've been sitting with a lot recently has been when you stand in your own truth, it empowers other people to do the same. So when you stand in that center of truth, or if you are using the arrow of truth in an honest way, um, no harm can really be done because you're there, you're in truth, and you're in communication. And I think that's beautiful. And that's what you're fostering in the community, I think. And that's
Yeah,
powerful.
like just in the last couple of years, what we've been doing at the Four Colors Drum Circle, because we have people coming and going, is doing a reteaching of the Seven Grandfathers teaching, over and over and again until each time we do it, we look more into what does that mean, that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. Because the Seven Grandfathers teaching is wisdom, love, respect, humility, honesty, courage, and truth.
Mm.
So in each of those teaching have an animal that has to do with it, and an animal helps teach it.
Yeah.
So I've been having to go because I'm bringing the teaching out to the people, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
finding what it means to other people. That so I have to live it.
Mm. Yeah. And I must say, the grandfather teachings just in my life, just I'm always going back to them, always, because it's a good way to live by.
For
It
sure.
is, when you honor those things, you're honoring self. And I think, yeah. Thank you so much for your time today. If we were in person, I would give you some tobacco. Unfortunately, I cannot do that through the screen, but maybe when I meet you, I'll give you some.
For
But
sure.
thank you very much for your time and for your authentic responses and just for this discussion. It was really, really lovely. I'm excited to share it and go from there.
Well, as I can say, I'm not going to say goodbye.
Oh yes.
I'll say Giga Wabamin, Minawa,
Gigo
Minawa.
Gigo Minawa.
Yeah.
Yes, until next time. Um, Thank you so much, listeners, for listening. If you are an elder in your community and you would like to come on to the podcast to share your story, feel free to call 506-543-8578 or email musicsoul.connection@gmail.com. You can find this podcast anywhere you podcast, and I will be linking some of the connecting details for Steve WinterHawk in the comments in that below as well. So that if you wanted to partake in the Medicine Wheel Garden at Heart Lake in Brampton,
Yes, yeah.
you can do so. Again, thank you so much for listening, everyone, and bye for now.
Chimicwich.
Chi miigwech.